I'm Sydney. I'm a freshman at Rice University, and I'm majoring in artificial intelligence. It's a new major, and it's under the School of Engineering and Computing.
Amazing. When did you get into Rice? Like, did you apply early or did you apply regular?
No, I actually applied. I applied in the regular decision cycle.
Okay, and how many, like, what made you choose Rice over, if, did you get into any other good schools?
Yeah, I got into at the end of everything. Out of my top three choices, I got into Rice and Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult decision, but with my Rice acceptance, I also got a merit scholarship that
Hmm.
covered over 50% of my cost to come to Rice. So it was really a decision between am I going to go to the really good research university on the West Coast or the really good research university in Houston. And honestly, Rice just gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, so I took it.
Amazing. Makes sense because college fees right now are insane. Yeah, 50%.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I
I was
think.
in Stanford admitted students group chat and I was explaining my situation. They were like, "Oh, I come to Stanford, come to Stanford." And I explained the merit scholarship with Rice and they were all like, "Go to Rice." Like we for
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about your stats then. What was your GPA and test scores that got you into both Rice and Stanford?
Yeah, I maintained all A's throughout high school. I'm pretty sure it's a bit different for me because of how I after my freshman year, I'm originally from Houston, but I moved to Pennsylvania after my freshman year.
Hmm.
So my
Okay.
school in Pennsylvania didn't include my freshman year GPA from the other school into my GPA. So I
Mm-hmm.
think for my sophomore to senior year, my cumulative weighted ended up being like a 4.39.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all A's, pretty standard. Yeah, I wasn't, and I think the interesting to me is like I wasn't number one in my class. I wasn't even number two. I think I was for sure in the top 10, and I think in the top five.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the SAT. I took it twice, and my score was a 1480.
Okay. And for the SAT, what was your starting score and what was your final score? And did you super score?
Yeah, no, the starting score was a 1480. I did have like a the testing location like wasn't the greatest, so I took it again and I got a 1470 the next time. Honestly, like that was one of the big points of nervousness throughout the entire thing. So I was like, oh, like it's not high enough for like the people that I saw like on the
Yeah.
internet. When in reality, like the score is still like top 3%, top 2%. Sometimes like when it's calculated with all the statistics and stuff. But I refuse to keep studying for it. I refuse to take it again, and so I just went with it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Cause like people applying to Rice and Stanford, they're actually like really cracked. Like I think
Yeah,
they get more applicants that are 1600 than they even can
yeah,
admit. Yeah, which is insane. So that's what I was gonna ask. Like, how do you feel about your academic profile compared to these applicants while applying?
yeah. No, I felt like my GPA, my despite like the perceived like low SAT score, if you want to even call it that, like I feel like I made up for it with my course rigor, high GPA. I think at the time my senior year, I was also taking college courses at Villanova University, so like it
Mm,
kind of just stacked on top of each other. Like whatever perceived deficit I had in my SAT, like I showed through other methods of academic
mm.
rigor. Yeah. And, like, through that, like, my SAT score was not gonna be the end all be all to decide, like, whether I got in or not.
Yeah, makes sense. It's just a very small part of your application. I think it's just a checkbox. Like if you have a decent enough score.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like how many AP classes did you take?
I ended up taking 9 AP classes,
Mm-hmm.
and part of that was because my parents capped me out at 4 per year. So my junior and senior year, I was only allowed to take 4 AP classes per year. They didn't want me too stressed. I was also a bit nervous about that, but again, like, it ended up working out perfectly fine.
So did you get like all fives or did you have some fours or threes like most people?
No, I had mostly fives. I forget which exams. I got a five on, I can't remember exactly, but I had a few fives, I think like two fours, and then I got a three on AP Physics Mechanics. And I just sat with that one. I was like, you know what? Yeah,
Makes
that
sense.
would
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
All right. I guess like moving on. Let's talk about your extracurriculars. So like when was the earliest you started thinking about, making an activity profile for universities like Rice and Stanford?
With like my extracurriculars, I didn't necessarily like plan them out super strategically. And it was kind of new because I did transfer into a new school my sophomore year. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like sure of all the opportunities that were there. And with a lot of my extracurriculars, I actually ended up creating a lot of them. I know one of my big ones is that I was a research intern for like a computational biology lab. I did that one for 2 years, which I reference a lot. Like my main activity is my highest time commitment. I was also a volunteer tennis coach for 2 years for a nonprofit called Team Up Philly. That was
Nice.
also another one. And kind of like from that, I spawned like different things. I was vice president of the National Honor Society. And from that, I created a pop up coffee shop at my school, which also was an extracurricular that took up a lot of time. And the money we raised from that went
Mm-hmm.
to the nonprofit I was working with for coaching with tennis. And then with a friend, I created this organization called Equity, and we were advocating for educational equity, which is like a big thing in the Philadelphia area because of like the differences in resources when you go like in the city and outside in the suburbs. So it was that. So a lot of things I created, I started a lot of service initiatives. I genuinely don't know how I balanced it all, but yeah, it wasn't necessarily things that I had went out and planned. I did things I enjoyed and I created things I enjoyed. So like by the time it came to like gathering it for my college application and putting together the profile and writing my essays, it was all really easy because everything I did was super personal to me and who I am.
Makes sense. And I guess like you started like a couple of projects. So how long how long did it take you to build these ideas from ideas to significant impact? And that would be good for a college application.
For the coffee shop, that was actually something I did. I started it the summer right before my senior year. It was generally months of planning. Me and my friend, I'm pretty sure we started thinking about it in like August, and we didn't have our first event until December. And that was after like working with the school administration, going back and forth, trying to figure out times, getting things, getting volunteers to come help us. We didn't have our first one until December. And then I think we had two more throughout the entire year. And we were able to raise almost $2,000, I think, which like for our time constraint, which was it was very, very good. I'm pretty sure my
Mm-hmm.
friend and I started like ideas and creating like purpose and mission statement around August, but we didn't actually get to implement until December. So like it took a while, but that was like with coordinating with our school and the administration saying like if we could do it, trying to figure out like how they were like really big on the logistics for everything because it was like hot coffee and teenage girls. So all of that. So yeah, but we were able to have two more after that first one. We had two more throughout the entire year, and we raised over $1,000. So for like the short turnaround, I say we did pretty good. And like that is typically lower than some of the stats you see like other students upload for things that they found, but um I think it was really like the mission behind it made it very compelling, and it's also something that they're the girls at my school continuing to do this year, so I'm very happy about that.
Makes sense. Yeah. Amazing. And would you say like you had varied interests in terms of your extracurriculars?
Oh, for sure. None of them connected at all. It
So
was
like
yeah,
yeah,
well,
a lot of people are like very, very scared about this because I think a lot of people have just varied interests, and unless
yeah.
you are like, I don't know, very focused on the one thing. But I guess like you had varied interests. So how did you make sure they all put forward like a consistent narrative throughout the application?
Yeah, so I think there was a consistent narrative to my application, but I think like it all kind of tied back to my want to change the world in some way and to just like simply help people. So with volunteer tennis, with the coffee shop, with like equity that I founded with my friend, like it was all geared toward more social justice things, but still like helping my community and even trying to have bigger impact. And with like all of my other computational biology and computer science stuff, that was me making an impact, wanting to change the world in a completely different way, but it still stemmed from core values that I had like inside that like they all just kind of connected around core values that I had, even though they were such different interests.
Makes sense. Okay. And let's talk about your community service. I guess did you put anything as community service on your application?
Yeah,
And
sorry.
yeah, like how did you make this feel authentic rather than just checking a box? Because a lot of people, I think, get into the trap of just putting in, like, checking the boxes of everything. Yeah, so go
Um,
ahead.
I was grateful to have a community service opportunity that I was genuinely interested in,
Mm-hmm.
especially with that was being a volunteer tennis coach. I played tennis for a lot of my life, and I was coaching like young girls from underserved areas of Philadelphia and like introducing them to a sport I've loved since I was their age. So not that I didn't even like it didn't feel like I was doing work or like just trying to get community service hours. It was something that I really enjoyed doing and I could speak to from the heart. Also, one of my recommendation letters came from the director of that organization that I was working with.
Hmm.
And she's seen me work with the girls. One of my awards was from being a volunteer at that organization. So not only could I speak from my experience doing that, but an adult, like a big person in that organization, could also speak to the dedication I was putting in
Hmm.
and the impact it had on the girls.
Makes sense. Amazing. And now let's talk about your awards and honors. So I guess, like, what did you put on there? And did you feel competitive in that area?
I felt like I lacked competitiveness in that area. Like I feel like, especially on the internet, you see so many things like
Yeah,
internet.
yeah.
Yeah, I said 4 times in a row.
Yeah, yeah,
All of these are things that I didn't have that. I had 2 national awards. I had the National, African American Recognition Award from College Board for my PSAT score, and then I had 2 National Spanish Exam Awards, and it made sense with my application because at that time I said I was gonna try to minor in Spanish. I had, a regional award from it was a Widener University High School Leadership Award. I also had my local and state awards from Science Fair, and then I think my last one was my mathletes distinctions. I was ranked, I think like I tied for 8th overall in our league my junior year, so I had that on there. Yeah, but that
yeah.
was that was it going in from applications. After I submitted them, I did send an update because I did end up being one of the national winners for the NC WIT Aspirations in Computing Award, which that one was a pretty big deal. So I made sure like everywhere I applied, I went and updated it. But that was
Hmm.
the biggest award I won, but it didn't even go into my any of my initial applications.
Sense. Okay. And okay, so let's talk about your essays. I guess, like, how did you turn your narrative into compelling essays for Common App?
Yeah, I started super early. I
Mm-hmm.
started like in the summer. I think most of my essays were written before I started school, or I had like ideas of essays, like drafts that were written before I started school because I really wanted to be ahead of everything and not like scrambling to get everything done last minute. But when I started writing essays, every time I would have some sort of childhood memory that was core to who I was, I wrote it down in a note because I was like, I can use this for an essay. So most of my essays were like fond experiences I had as a child that like really developed me into the person I was that I am today and the person I was when I was writing those essays. Like my main Common App essay was about my relationship with the question why and how that has like my childhood curiosity has turned into this inquisitiveness that I have with everything today. I wrote an essay about my mom doing my hair and how I like related that to like spending quality time with people in how I would spend quality time with people in the community of whatever college I ended up with. For one of them, the most peculiar one, I wrote about sweet tea and what that's meant in my life and made a metaphor for Southern hospitality. So it's like almost little mundane things, right? That kind of showed like a window into my life and who I was and the values that I have.
Hmm. And, like, if you had to, right now we're like less than 2 months away from 80, right? And a lot of people are currently asking, just waking up to reality about essays. So, like, how would you suggest they approach the essay writing process if they have like 2 months left?
I have 2 months left. Ooh, that's really a time crunch, but it's like it's not gonna be a good essay unless you write from the heart. Like if it's just some like generic essay that you think is gonna sound good to a college admissions panel, it's not gonna be a good essay. Like my best essays, I feel in ones that were like sent back in my acceptance packages
Mm-hmm.
were ones that I had wrote about and I enjoyed writing them and they really showed who I was. Like you're trying to be the perfect candidate, but you're trying to show that through who you are. Like if the essay is not about who you are, then it's not going to be a good essay. So I say like write about yourself and your experiences and just be authentic.
No, but like, I guess like another question would be like, I feel like a lot of people, they also have that that thought in their head that they have to be like impressive, right?
Oh yeah.
And so like how do you balance like authenticity and while being impressive to the admissions officers? Like how do you suggest people approach that?
I guess really the approach I took was that I wrote about like my extracurriculars and how they tied to me. That's a really tough question, actually. It's really about, I think personally, it just kind of stemmed from like why I started doing like my impressive extracurriculars from the beginning because they
Mm,
meant something to me. So like when you're even crafting your entire application, like you can't just put something on it that you think is impressive because it has like inherent impressiveness. Even if it isn't like super impressive in the grand scheme of like everyone who's applying, if it's important to you and it ties to you and you can write about that in your essays, do that. That's a lot more impressive than just having something there to have it there to show off.
makes sense. Like for you personally, did you worry that your story maybe wasn't dramatic or impressive enough? And if so, like how did you get past that mindset? Like I feel like a lot of people think that and then they over edit it and then it's just a shit essay at the end, you know? Like how did you avoid that?
You just gotta know when to put the essay down. Like, if you've looked at it so many times, you've had other people look at it, and
Mm-hmm.
if multiple other people are telling you that it's good, believe them. They're not gonna lie to you. They're not gonna do all of that. They know college is important. So just like know when to put it down. Even if you submit it and it's not perfect, it is perfectly fine. I know people who, this personally wasn't me, but I know people who've gotten in here that did their applications the night of, and they still got into these amazing universities because they just were like, this is what I have right now is what I've written. This is who I am. And yeah, that was it.
All right. And like for supplemental essays, I guess, which out of Rice or Stanford's supplemental essay was the most challenging for you?
For Rice's, that was most challenging for me. They have one, the long essay, I think it's like 500 words, where
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it's the same this year, but you have to pick between writing about the residential college system, which is like a huge part of life at Rice, and like what that means to you and like how you contribute to it, or writing about what the prompt called like being a change agent at Rice and how you're gonna like be a change agent. Like coming in, I knew a lot about the residential college system. But for some reason I was completely turned off to that essay and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna write about being a change agent. And that one was hard because I had to sit with it. And like I had the time to sit with it. If you don't have the time to sit with it, don't do that. But I ended up writing a really, really amazing essay about how, when I felt like was amazing, how having difficult conversations is something I want to do in college. Yeah, it just ended up really working. I wrote that one in one sitting from start to finish. And it just, the most difficult one ended up being my favorite out of all of the college essays I've written.
Okay, makes sense. All right. You said you applied in RD, right? So
Yes, I did.
I guess let's talk about college selection strategy. It's like many students like they don't have like a college they're truly passionate about, and then they just I think they just choose based on rankings and everything. So I
Yeah.
guess like how was the college selection process for you? Like, and what advice would you have for people in the same situation right now?
It's really hard, especially when you have schools who do like the restrictive early action. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
not like super passionate about a school, you don't want to risk your chance applying early one place and then having to deal with the regular decision or like ED1 or ED2. It's really, really, really hard. But what ended up happening to me, I applied restrictive early action to a school that I got waitlisted to. But my other two top choices, I got in regular decision round. So it's honestly a gamble. I say like I say this with everything, but like go with your heart. Like whichever one you feel like you should apply early to. If you flip a coin, like if that's what it is, then that's what it has to be. But there's like somewhat of a game to it if you really want to look at statistics that hard. But like eventually it all just becomes a blurb. So I say pick the school that you think you would fit best at and then apply everywhere else like regular decision or in whatever phases. And I was deferred after the first like restrictive early action, and Rice has the option to do early decision too, but I know I didn't want to bind myself like that, so I just still went ahead and applied regular decision.
Makes sense. Okay. And like how would you balance reach, match, and safety schools when building your list?
So I only applied to 8 schools total. Definitely would have done more if I had the chance to go back. Like personally, it ended up working out, but that's like a very, very rare chance.
Mm.
Say find some safety and match schools that you really like the programs. They may not be like super competitive schools, but you like the programs and you know that you will enjoy yourself like in that campus environment. And for your reach schools, just take the gamble. Like honestly, that's what it is. There are so many great, amazing students with amazing stats who get rejected and accepted to all of those schools all the time. So when building your college list and choosing those, you have to make sure you're choosing places that no matter where you got into, you know that that's a school that you chose, whether it was no matter how competitive it was.
Makes sense. And moving on, let's talk about your recommendation letter strategy. Because, like, did you ever guide or prepare your recommenders by sharing like a badge sheet? I think a lot of schools currently also enable it, so you can give your
Yeah.
professors some information. So just walk us through that.
I don't think I gave anyone a brag sheet. I know, like, my school had college counselors, and they requested that within the process, so that went out to that one person specifically, but for my teachers, chose teachers who knew me pretty well. Like one of them was one of the faculty leaders for Mathletes, which is a club that I did really well in. So she already, and she was my calculus teacher. So she already knew me very well. We had built a relationship. For her, writing a recommendation letter for me wasn't going to be hard. I also chose another teacher that just knew me very, very well. It just kind of ended up working out like that for me. But for my letters of like my external letters of recommendation, I got one for the PI for the lab that I was working in and the director of the nonprofit I was working with. So I just had the opportunity to choose people who knew me very, very well. So like creating a brag sheet wasn't kind of in the cards when I did it. But if you are asking for recommendation letters for people who like may not know you as well, may not know what you do as well, but can still write a strong letter of recommendation for you, do it.
Makes sense. Okay. And I guess like did you take any advice from seniors? Did you have any help during application process? And like how impactful was outside help if you did take any help?
I had outside help from the application process in terms of like organizing everything and writing and editing my essays. It was definitely very, very helpful. It took a lot of the stress off of me, especially like navigating through a busy senior year and like just not having to think about some of the things and like having somebody designated who you know is gonna help you like edit your essays or suggest changes, stuff like that. So it was definitely very, very helpful.
Makes sense. Okay. And like what advice would you have for students who are, let's say, in like junior year and who feel like they wasted their first 2 years of high school? Like, what do you think they should start doing immediately?
Junior year, if you don't have good study habits, start those immediately. Your junior year really, really matters. And that's that year, like, you have to keep your grades pretty much immaculate. Your social life will be sacrificed, I hate to say, but you've got to do what you got to do to get in the schools you want to get into. And really, I'd say, like, lock in on your extracurriculars. I think even if you don't have a leadership position in a club, you can take the route I did with some of the things I did and create your own opportunities because like not everything's going to be handed to you. You can't like sit there and be like, "Oh, I'm not president of blah blah blah, so I can't get into this school or my extracurriculars won't be competitive." Like make your extracurriculars competitive while also doing the things you love. Create the opportunities that you don't have.
Makes sense. Okay. And yeah, do you have like any last piece of advice in terms of college application before we end this podcast?
Overall, I say trust your gut. You're right most of the time. Like if something doesn't feel right, the school doesn't feel right, don't apply there. Like if the essay, like don't waste too much time stressed out. I was super stressed out the entire time and I ended up getting into schools, two schools that I really want to get into and choosing one that I am loving right now. The stress and the tears just aren't worth it in that moment. It's really easy for me to say on the other side, but like unnecessary stress just isn't helpful during that process. So just trust yourself.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming over.
Oh, no problem. It was great. Thank you so much.